Hi, everybody. Happy Sunday. You guys gonna have to tell me how audio is and tech because I didn't have time to set up the good gear and I just went and made this happen. I've been out on the streets all day. It's like 20 degrees here. I am just exhausted, but I wanted to talk to all of you. So, happy Sunday. If you're new here, Derek and Addie are the moderators. I will argue the best moderators on the internet. Derek currently lives in a tent camp in Oakland, soon to be out of that, hopefully for good this time. And Addie is formerly homeless, and I hope that stays the same too. Um, I got a little show tonight. I sat down, opened up the laptop, starting putting some pictures together, some stuff that happened, and here I am, and I wanted to say hello. Let me see. Oh my gosh, what did I do wrong here? I did something wrong here. Okay. So the big news, you ready? You ready for the big news? We Addie probably knew what this one was. We are on TikTok. I can't believe I am on TikTok. Tell you a little something really quick. So when there's a new social media, whatever, one of the things that businesses and nonprofits and advocates do wrong is when there's a new shiny social media, they jump on it and focus on your family, focus on community, which is what we do here on Sunday nights. So when TikTok came around, I didn't. So I should say, a good practice is to get your username, to just, you know, get your username, even if you don't use it. That's so nobody else can. Angelina Jolie has Angelina Jolie on Twitter. She's never used it, but it's hers, right? At least last time I checked, she didn't use it. She didn't use it for years. So I never got invisible people. TikTok is like dance stuff and, funny, and I am not funny. I'm an old fat guy with a bag of socks. I am not funny. So I did not get our username. Well, TikTok's grown. Also, there's an opportunity to be there and teach people about homelessness. And so for the last couple of months, I've been trying to buy our username, which is some young man. He seems really nice in Vietnam, rural Vietnam, has our username. Anyways, I've been trying to buy it from him for a while, just so we have the right username, and it just never happened. So I created this, and if you're on TikTok, one of the things that I've noticed is oh my gosh, we have one video that already there's so much misinformation and nastiness and NIMBYs and everything. If you're on TikTok, I need your help to go into the comments, just like you do on our YouTube channel here, and help educate everybody. Please, 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 need your help. I'm just learning TikTok. Addie messaged me some tips. We're going to grow. I'm actually looking for content producers, and we're going to make something real cool of it. Like I said, this is the year we're focusing on video, starting with YouTube, and TikTok is part of that strategy. And Yes, Gene, I did say 20 degrees. It's actually been down to 16, feels like 3. It's been a really, 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 really cold, cold here in New York. And those of you that know already are aware that I love Charmaine. I love all homeless people, but Charmaine is just, you probably saw her on John Oliver, HBO special. You've seen her on Invisible People. So whenever I come to New York, the first thing I do is I look for Charmaine. I have spent days looking for Charmaine. She doesn't have a phone, so she's hard to get a hold of. There's another homeless advocate in New York. His name is Josh, and he has better luck finding Charmaine than I do. So every time except this trip, I've had to contact Josh and said, Josh, can you help me find Charmaine? This trip, I have found her 3 days in a row. Oh my gosh, I've got it down now. And oh my gosh, I just love, you know what? I have a picture of my last trip, I think it was 2 years ago, and Charmaine had this stuffed monkey, stuffed animal monkey. And we're taking selfies and she was putting it up on statues and stuff. I got to find that because it's so funny. Anyways, I have had, so here's the thing. I hate homelessness, but I love homeless people. And Charmaine or any homeless person should not be outside, period. Nobody should be outside nobody should be without adequate housing. I do love running into my friends. I just wish they weren't homeless anymore. And I gotta tell you, one of the coolest, most amazing experiences that I've ever had doing this is handing out socks in the subway with Charmaine. A highlight of this trip will be handing out socks in the subway with Charmaine.
There you go.
There's a lot of people down here.
There you go.
Staying
Sure
warm.
is.
And you got 5 layers on.
And I got 5 layers and I'm still freezing. Yeah.
So when it's really, really cold, and hopefully the audio of the video came through. When it's really, really cold, homeless people do what they can to get into someplace warm. Here in Los Angeles, here in New York City, that often means going down in the subway and riding trains all night or staying in the subway. So I was talking to Charmaine and she said, Mark, you got to go walk here and walk here. And I did. So we did, and there's a TikTok of it. We did give out socks and I've been down there a couple of times. I'm really careful because I don't want to bring attention to people. And what I mean by that, and people see them. You walk the subways, you see homeless people. But I don't want to bring any more attention to them. And so I don't know what it is. I go out with outreach teams. And they are driving, and these are people that, do this every day, and they don't see the homeless people I do. I don't know what it is. Maybe I was formerly homeless. Maybe because I've traveled all over, but I have this, radar, if you will. So like when I'm in an airport, I can see somebody that is homeless that's trying to stay warm and they're trying to blend in, right? They're trying to be like a passenger going through the terminal. I was in Target here 2 days ago and there were homeless people all over pretending to shop. Carrie Fuller's in the house. Woo! So there's when it gets to be freezing cold weather, homeless people do whatever they can to stay warm. Today I met a couple of people riding trains and I would love to get their story. They wouldn't talk. I don't pay for stories because they retain the rights, and then it's acting and it just loses it. There's some people on YouTube that pays homeless people and that's their thing, but it's not, there's no integrity, right? Because people are just going to come up and lie and tell whatever story to make money. We don't do that. What we do is the homeless people retain the rights to their own story. Anyways, you've heard all that rant before. So I would love, 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 love to be able to tell a story of one of the train riders. I'd even love to ride a train with them. But I don't want to bring attention to them. So like at Target or at the airports, if I see a homeless person, I don't walk up and say, hey, would you like some socks or would you like to go on Invisible People? Because it would bring attention to them and they're trying to blend in so they don't get kicked out. Many of you might remember James. Oh my gosh, I got to bring this up. Especially since Carrie Fuller's in the house. She's royalty. Carrie Fuller's in the house. So, this is an old TEDx I did. On homelessness and social media. And Carrie Fuller is one person that has helped me shape my beliefs or paradigms or knowledge on how homeless people use the internet. But there was James, and James would sneak in the Apple store here and blend in and get on the computers and video blog, right? He was homeless in Central Park. The libraries give 45 minutes, that's it. If he could blend in the Apple store here in Manhattan at the time, COVID might have changed things. At the time was 24 hours a day. So if James could blend in as a shopper and security allowed him in, he could sit at a computer or stand at one of the desks as long as they believed that he was shopping. Anyways, what was interesting is this is the first time I have been in New York City where I ran into an outreach team. And Charmaine introduced me to him. This gentleman was super nice. I intentionally took a picture from behind the back to not identify him because, and he was aware of this. He gave me permission to take this photo because I didn't want to get him in trouble. He's formerly homeless. Huge props to the city of New York for employing formerly homeless people. That's a good thing. But what was interesting, his job here in the subways is to help people, homeless people, go to shelters. And he said, nobody wants to go to shelters. Why? Shelters suck. Shelters are horrible places. Oh my gosh. And now because of COVID, shelters are a death trap. Many of you have seen the video of my friend here that went into the bridge shelter and he got COVID and died. So, the public just thinks, oh, they should go inside. They should go into shelter. And, shelters are just awful places. Now, they could make them nice. They could. They could make them so that homeless people would get the services they need. They could. But politicians don't want to spend the money on that. They want to spend the least amount of money fixing a crisis that they created, spending the least amount of money. And they think that's a whole big rant there, and I'm not going to explode my head. Anyways, it is freezing cold outside, freezing cold, and people would rather stay outside in the wet and cold weather than go into shelters. That's how bad the shelters are here. And many of you may remember Cynthia. I did Cynthia's video my last visit here, a couple weeks before, it was a week before Thanksgiving. Cynthia has some mental illness. She's been outside too long. Anybody outside this long is going to have mental illness. But she's still sleeping outside. I think it was 26 when I took this picture. 26 degrees. Not wind chill. That's the actual. And look at how she's layered up. Look at how she's layered up. You heard Charmaine say she's wearing 5 layers of clothes. Charmaine even went on to say that her clothes weigh more than her. People on the East Coast or people in Canada or people in wet and cold climates know how to survive cold weather. There's a thing, and sometimes, homeless advocates and politicians and people with the agenda to build more shelters because they're shelter operators, or that's what the public thinks, will try to make the case that there's more people that die of hypothermia in Los Angeles than New York City. And they try to spin that's because Los Angeles doesn't have shelters and New York City has shelters. That is what they're trying to spin. They're trying to say people die outside in Los Angeles of cold weather because New York City has shelters. Well, here's a fact. Both cities suck at taking care of their homeless population. Both of them. And the reason people die in warmer climates, an example of this, a couple years back, 6 homeless people died in San Jose. There was a cold snap that came down from the north. And people that live in Los Angeles or Texas or in warmer climates, are not used to layering like Cynthia is. So the weather when the cold weather comes in like that, they're not layered up. And I mean, it's horrible. Nobody should die homeless. Nobody should die homeless. But my point is, the reason that more people die of hypothermia in Los Angeles than New York is people in New York, homeless people, know how to live outside. Look at Cynthia. Look how layered she is. It shouldn't be. Nobody should have to. I mean, I can't even imagine, what. Cynthia's a disabled woman. She's probably wearing 5, 6 layers of clothes. Could you imagine what she has to go through to go to the bathroom? And people say people want to be homeless. It's 26 degrees. When I was there at 9 o'clock, it was probably 16 at night. And people say homeless people want to be homeless. Come on. Another interesting story that I love Cynthia. And she asks me every time is I'll ask, can I help you with anything? And I wish I had housing. I wish I had. I mean, the purpose of Invisible People is we're advocating. We're trying to change policy to help end homelessness. So Cynthia All she wants is a cup of coffee. There's a Dunkin' Donuts almost right across the street, but that's not the coffee she wants. She wants coffee from a pizza place about 2 blocks up. 5 sugars and a half and half. And it's interesting here, something about New York City is when you buy a cup of coffee, they spoon the sugar in. You don't get the packets that you know, open yourself. Anyways, she's willing to pay for it herself. It's a $2 cup of coffee. I'm not going to let her pay for it. And I go walk to help her. So here's the thing. True homelessness is absence of choice, right? Her what she wants is the coffee from her favorite place, not the Dunkin' Donuts across the street. She likes the coffee from this pizza place. She can't walk to go get it. She's dependent on somebody else. She's even willing to pay for it. And so what we need to do is be there and be present. Be there and be present and listen. Don't just go in and say, oh, here's a sandwich, or here's what we think you need. Here's a granola bar. Granola bars are nasty. Oh my God, yeah. I mean, and then we give granola bars with like a bottle of water. Yeah, you need milk with peanut butter and jelly, right? Anyways, my point is, it's not rocket science. You be present. The number one thing that you can give anybody is your positive attention. The number one thing that you can give anybody is your positive attention. Be present with them. Listen. I mean, I'm hanging out with Charmaine a little bit every day. I didn't today, I did the last 3 days. And they just love having somebody that gives them positive attention. And then just sit and listen. And if you can help them, like she just needed somebody to walk and buy coffee. She was willing to pay for it, but that ain't going to happen on my watch. A good friend of mine, Jane, K-Town for All, you've probably seen Jane's video. She tells a story about a homeless friend she was talking to. All they needed was eye drops. That's all they wanted was eye drops. So be present, listen, and if they share something that you can help with, help them. Like eye drops, like walking to go get coffee. This is a photo of me the next day. New York, what they call it, a bomb cyclone, right? New York got hit with a bomb cyclone. I don't even know what that is. It's probably a heavy metal band, right? Bomb cyclone. Did I just do that? Yes, I did. I was literally just walking from where Cynthia was staying. I went out in the cold to check on Cynthia because I knew she lives in that one area. There's actually a group of homeless people that live in this one area. So I went to check on them. They weren't there. I don't know if it's because of code blue. Cities, when it gets below freezing, will often do a code blue, which in theory sounds great. Well, I don't know if it sounds great. What it is the police can force you into a shelter. That's not. This is a tough conversation because I will always lean on life-saving. So when they force you into a shelter, it's because it's so cold if you stay outside, you're going to freeze to death. But then you have police forcing people is really not a good thing either, right? I mean, what we need is housing so those people are inside before the storms hit. That is what we need. Anyways, I'm only showing this picture to show how cold it was. And literally, I was just leaving the area of where Cynthia was. And today I went down to Lower Manhattan. So we're filming two mini documentaries and a third video that might be a mini documentary. Don't know yet. But we featured Feed the Streets New York. There's also a Feed the Streets in Los Angeles. And yes, there's a pattern. What we try to do with these mini documentaries is encourage more normal people to volunteer, to take action to help their neighbors. I used to, a couple years ago, think churches were going to do that. I thought churches aren't bound by government funding, and churches would step up to the plate and help end homelessness. I've realized now that's never going to happen. What we're seeing is like K-Town for All and Feed the Streets, and these, they call them mutual aid groups. I call them community action groups, but I really see they're amazing. So that is why we were down in Lower Manhattan today. Also, completely, I got to tell you, so I met some hardcore train riders today. I met some people that have been outside far too long, and they're hardcore. You can tell by the gear. You can tell by how they live, and they're New Yorkers. They're tough as nails. And it shouldn't be that way. It is that way. It shouldn't be that way. One of them that I met is Tony. Tony's been homeless far too long. And I love this because I asked Tony for an interview, and Tony said, soup first. I'm going to drink my soup first, because Feed the Streets New York was giving everybody hot soup. It was, oh my gosh, it's so good. And, everybody's like, housing first and all this. Tony was like, soup first. And Tony's story, Tony went into the hospital. He had pins put in his leg. When he went into the hospital, he lost his apartment, and they exited him to homeless when he couldn't walk. Tony was exited to home. Everybody says, and hospital dumping is the real deal. I mean, it happens all the time. In Los Angeles, I know there's laws against it. I don't know if there are in New York, but hospital dumping, what it is that if a homeless person or a person doesn't have insurance, they kick them out. If they happen to not have a home, they're homeless. So Tony was not even able to walk. Amy, who runs Feed the Streets, tells the story about how Tony used to come up with his crutches and scrape the snow where they put their tables with his crutches while he could hardly even walk. And, Tony is a New Yorker. He's hard as nails. Been out here far too long. And I adore Tony. I adore, like Charmaine. I adore all homeless people I meet. And it shouldn't be that way. I look at his smile, but I feel the pain in his eyes. And that's homelessness. I adore the woman who runs Feed the Streets New York. She's amazing. She even drives like an hour and a half to come in. She volunteered. And I did, I got to go find this again for all you new people. Let's see. Invisible People is now on TikTok. We are on TikTok. So I forget if this is a. It wasn't. Oh, I did put it on TikTok, but it was really an IG video. But we're recording a video today, and I did this little piece with Amy, and it's the best soundbite. And I didn't have my professional camera. Wait to the end of the soundbite. I gotta play it because it's so. Oh my gosh, it's short, but it's so. Oh my gosh, so awesome. This is Amy. We're here at Feed the Streets, New York.
Yep.
And I just adore what they're doing here. And Amy, you are so positive, so full of energy.
Yep.
Really amazing.
I can't help myself. We love being here, and it gives me the boost to get through the next week. So it's been a hard year for everybody, and this makes me feel like the world's a little less shit.
It's been a hard year for everybody. And volunteering, that's what she's talking about, helping homeless people, makes her feel like the world's a little less shit. Is that a quote? Oh my gosh. So, if you're watching this, no matter what you're going through, go out and help your neighbors. And maybe homelessness isn't your thing. There's so many causes and so many ways that you can give back to your community. Your problems won't go away, but when you're helping people that are worse off than you are, and there's people way worse. No matter how bad your problems are, there's people that are having far worse challenges. And when you go and help them, your problems don't go away, but it helps you with a new perspective. It helps you with a new perspective to be able to tackle your problems. Woo! How's everybody doing? Okay? How about if I hang out in the chat for a while? Sherry's in the house. Yeah, Sassy, cost of living housing is every city. Hey, Matthew, thank you. Hey, Jay. See, here's the thing, and you get this a lot, is that people say, well, they need to move. If I do a video in California, people go, they need to move out of California. If I do a video in Kansas, they need to move out of California. Where? There's no place in the United States where the affordable housing crisis is not madness. It was buffering, so hopefully it didn't. In cities like New York, there's an insane high cost of living because there's more opportunities to make money. And in small communities like Jackson, Ohio, that has 5,000 people, you can get an apartment cheaper, but there ain't no jobs that you can afford that cheaper apartment. The reason the apartment is cheaper is because there's no opportunities to make money. So there's no place in this country that is not affected by the affordable housing crisis. Samara, very true. So, Thomas, the evangelical church in America could end homelessness tomorrow if it wanted to. It doesn't want to. Yeah, Sarah, it is a suck fest, but we've got to change it. It's the only country we got. And I think it's still the greatest country in the world, but there's a lot of wrong that we've got to make better. Hey, the software student, thank you. I'm doing okay. I'm a little tired. JL, great question. JL asks if affordable housing and job opportunities which pay to living wage suddenly appeared, would homelessness end? It would be the best direction. So, what's happening now, and one of the things you get people that are always saying, well, there's billions of dollars being spent, right? The homeless services is doing better than it ever has housing people. Yes, there's waste. There's waste in every industry. Yes, there's corruption. There's corruption in every industry. Shouldn't be. We've got to fix it. Granted. But the money is being spent and it's housing people. The problem is there's more people entering into homelessness than we can get out. In Los Angeles, they are housing 150 people a day. 150 homeless people are getting put into housing. The problem is because of the affordable housing crisis and lack of a living wage, there's 350 people entering into homelessness. Politicians will say 250 or 200, but there was a study that said 350. So I'm not a mathematician, but if you have 150 getting into housing and 350 entering into homelessness, that's 200 new homeless people every day. So to directly answer your question, the first thing fixing the affordable housing crisis and giving people a living wage would be to prevent homelessness. And that is so needed because we're treading water here. We're sinking, we're drowning because there's so many people entering into homelessness, right? A lot of people want to say it's drug addiction or mental health. And yes, there's an addiction crisis and a mental health crisis in this country, and it's always been. Right? There's always been an addiction crisis and a mental health crisis. And most addicts and most people with mental health problems live in houses. The big change in the last 10 years, more importantly, the last 5 years, has been the affordable housing crisis. Yes, fentanyl is horrible, and fentanyl has wreaked havoc on the homeless population and the housed population. I'm not trying to downplay those crises, but if we don't fix the affordable housing crisis, we're never, ever, 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 ever going to end homelessness. And the one thing that the people, there's advocates, that really most of them are pushing for criminalization. They want forced removal of homeless people. All they care about is getting homeless people out of sight. They try to disguise it as compassion. Oh, we feel for them. We want them to be forced into treatment. Okay, what have you ever been forced to do that it's stuck? What? When I wrapped my Mercedes around a parked Cadillac back when I worked in the television industry, I was forced to go to AA. I didn't get sober for many years after that, right? Forced treatment, and then you put somebody into a treatment, insurance only pays 28 days. And then they're exited back to homelessness where they drink and use again. So forced treatment doesn't work at all. And treatment without housing, because they say housing is, anyways, I think you guys get the point, right? We need housing. And we can't build our way out of this crisis. New housing stock is important, but we have to be able to create, like Caltrans has housing that is vacant, that is not even being used, right? we have to look at housing stock that is already created, and I think you guys get the point. Dan Marie, you make a great point. I'm a psychology major. I only know enough to be dangerous. And I had a wonderful psych teacher, and her name was Amy. And I remember raising my hand saying, what is the benchmark of sanity? How do you know somebody has mental health issues or doesn't, right? And she said, there's no benchmark. But what we do know is the more money that you have, the more you can mask your mental illness. And probably um, the best example of that is Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was a brilliant entertainer, but Michael Jackson was also trying to make himself white. He had a pet chimpanzee. He had a zoo where he was a pedophile with little boys. And nobody was, I mean, that's mental illness. And nobody was saying anything because he was so stinking rich. So if you have money, you can be a drug addict. I mean, gosh, look at all the celebrities, right? And if you have money, so it's not, I think you get the point. By the way, thank you, everybody. Great questions. This is a great chat tonight. I'm really glad that I fired up the live stream, even though the video isn't the best quality that we've done. Looks like the hotel's having some internet trouble. But hopefully it's quality enough. And hopefully, Lady T's in the house. Hopefully Addie and Derek are having a good time too. I know last time there wasn't enough trolls for Derek. Derek likes zapping trolls. Thank you, Sean. JL, there is just so you know, I mean, people, what we do, we don't just do this YouTube channel. We're on Apple News, we're on Google News, we have writers, and we do research, and we do advocacy, and we're doing all we can, but it's just us. When there's $110 donated today, and I'm grateful for that. And every penny will be used to help solve homelessness, to fight all this misinformation, and to push for policy change. It's a huge issue, but I'm thinking there is major, major funding into right-wing propaganda and negative information. Somehow it has become a right-wing, left-wing issue where conservatives are now pushing for criminalization. I mean, there are campaigns in Los Angeles. There is a campaign, several campaigns, politicians that are running on a ticket to criminalize homelessness. I know in Austin and in Seattle that there's well-funded campaigns pushing for criminalization. And if you look deep down, it's to motivate people through fear. The problem is, it's just going to make homelessness worse. Oh, I see some deletes. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. BG's in the house, and there was something I was supposed to reference BG's cat or something. Before we went on, I got to go find it. I got to do this right. Before I finger point at BG, she says, remember to include Fluffball. I assume Fluffball is a cat, but Fluffball could be a dog. So, but Fluffball is being referenced because BG is such an encouragement. Did I get it right, BG? And Melka, I saw you in the house too. And I'm seeing a bunch of deletes. So Derek, hopefully you're getting the troll frenzy out. Wow, you have an 18-year-old cat. Wow. Yes, I am currently in New York City. I am. This was me yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. This was me yesterday. I am currently in New York City, and this is me with Charmaine, and I'm going to play it again. Some of you might already seen this, but it's just such a... I went through the subways of New York City with a homeless woman giving socks to homeless people.
A highlight of this trip will be handing out socks in the subway with Charmaine.
There you go.
There's a lot of people down here.
There you go.
Staying
Sure
warm.
is.
And you got 5 layers
And I
on.
got 5 layers and I'm still freezing. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm the first person to hand out socks. I'm probably one of the first persons. Now it's kind of popular. But even yesterday, so I was walking down the street and there was a guy that came up with food and a homeless person was on the ground and he was getting food from the guy. And I pulled out the socks and I just held them. I didn't say anything. And he was like, wow, socks, because everybody's handing out food. I mean, there's overfeeding again. And I support feeding kind of again because we're going through the waves of the pandemic. But I sure wish people would coordinate their feeding. There's some wonderful mutual aid groups that are very responsible and they do more than just feed. But there's also lots of people that just go out and make a mess. And anyways, what I was going to say is, while I don't know if I'm the first person to ever hand out socks, I doubt it. Now everybody hands out socks. But I went out in the subways in New York City with my friend Charmaine to hand out socks to homeless people. And that, to me, was a bucket list moment I didn't even know I had on my bucket list. Hey, Simon, never give up. Never give up. I was homeless 26 years ago. Addie was homeless. Derek's currently homeless. Never give up. That's the one thing. Hey, Dan Marie, it really does. And it just, I mean, this country has made so many leaps and bounds in so many areas, but now we're going backwards. Double bass. So, in rural communities, often there is like a church basement with some cots, maybe mats on the floor. Often they make you sign a religious statement or force you into religious programming. I don't think I don't. And then you have it depends. So I need more information from your question because permanent supportive housing. We need to get people off the streets permanently. Again, and this is what happens: is nonprofits don't always get good housing stock. So it could be a slumlord, it could be in a bad area, it could be all the above. And a person might go in and they need services, and then the nonprofits don't provide services. I'll be one of the only people. I advocate for housing first, but housing first is broken. You know, housing first is a brilliant, brilliant model, but it's rarely implemented correctly. And we also have roadblocks of getting people into housing first and providing services. It's all so disconnected and messed up. Okay, folks, we got 5 more minutes. Did you guys have a good show tonight? I did. You guys' questions was great. Again, I'm sorry about the, hopefully the camera quality was okay and the audio was okay. Jay, I was hoping to be in Gainesville at the end of this month, but it canceled. So no, I haven't been in Gainesville for some time. Sonia, I do try to go weekly. We haven't set up what time the live stream. So it used to be every Sunday night this time because I lived in New York. Now I'm just visiting New York, and we're trying to figure out what time would be best. Carrie, I am trying. I am really trying. I want to get up to visit. Yeah, Cassandra, thank you very much. I feel much more comfortable when I create a little bit of a story that I can walk through some stuff. I want to get back to Seattle. Oh my gosh. Somebody sent me an article today from Seattle that made me scream. I'm only in New York. We're recording 2 more documentaries. Lady T, Lady T, Lady T's in the house. I can't believe I just did that. Lady T, you got Mark Horvath doing cheers. Yes, I am still sober. I'm still sober. Okay, folks, one more time. If you're a TikTok person, we are just starting on TikTok. So, grace, please. Hopefully, not hopefully. This year, Invisible People we're going to really invest more. We've been growing our journalism. We're going to always be growing our journalism. In fact, Carrie, if you ever want to write for us, we pay. I didn't even think about that until now. So, anyways, we are going to, as somebody said earlier, the misinformation on homelessness is rampant. And there's big, well-funded campaigns and a lot of really just social media nastiness. And we're the only ones. We're the only ones out there trying to educate y'all. And we got to make that louder. Our goal, our purpose, our focus is to make the truth louder. The truth on homelessness has to be louder. Oh, Carrie, no, I mean, for the last couple of years, everybody got paid but me. But we pay everybody. I believe in paying. Virgil Reggie, all to fill my pocket. For 13 years, I worked almost every waking moment without ever getting paid. Last year, I grossed a little under $7,000 for a full year. And that money came from speaking in other gigs, not from invisible people. Yes, I hired myself this year. But if you do the math that I worked free for 13 years, would you do that? No. No, you wouldn't. And here's the thing is I wish I could go tomorrow. I wish I could go tomorrow and get a normal job, vacation in Hawaii like normal people. So please, I'm not one of these people that say, oh, I'm going to work to end homelessness and lay myself off. No. But if all of us work to fix policies that are so broken, because homelessness is a symptom, not a cause. So it's the lack of affordable housing, it's lack of a living wage, it's racism, foster care, broken criminal justice, domestic violence, addiction, mental health, healthcare. You go on and on and on. We got to fix all that. And that's what I've given my life to. I have given my life to help all of us, because if we can end homelessness, it also saves taxpayer money. So I'm trying to help you too. Mecca, I have my moments. I mean, Hey, Big Thunder, thank you. Thank you, Matthew. Derek or Eddie, whap this KKK guy. He should have been zapped a long time ago. Thank you. Derek's having more fun tonight, I can tell. Kato, thank you. Okay, we've been on for an hour. I thoroughly enjoyed tonight. As I do hanging out with you, I am honored and privileged that you all spend time with me. I am grateful for Addie and Derek, who are the best moderators on the internet. Hopefully you all will have a amazing week. Gosh, Amy's video was so great because what she said is, we've all had a rough year, and this makes the world feel like less shit, right? All of us, everybody, has been having a hard time. A lot of people say, the coronavirus has affected us all, so it's something we're all. That's not true. People with a lot of money are not affected the same as people without money. Come on. But it has changed us all. Nobody escapes suffering. Nobody. And it has been, oh gosh, so hard. I know this week, I'm so grateful for the experiences that I had this week. Because whatever pain I feel, For somebody outside on the streets, it's 1,000 times worse. I could go outside, and I have waterproof boots on. They're not boots, they're shoes, but they're waterproof. They're insulated. And with gloves, I can last about a half an hour. And then it starts to hurt. My toes start to hurt. My fingers start to hurt. Today, when we were down in Lower Manhattan with Feed the Streets New York, we were videotaping, and I wasn't paying attention to my body. And when I went inside, the tips of my fingers were all red and painful. It's like the start of frostbite. And all I can think of is, I was only outside for a half an hour in 10, 16 degree weather. There's people living outside. There's people living outside in this weather. Cynthia is one of those people living outside in the freezing, freezing cold. And nobody should be without adequate housing and basic services. And we, all of us, have to influence the people around us. We have to. It's getting harder. I've been doing this for a long time. I was homeless for a long time. It has always been hard to fight homelessness. Not just politicians, but also the bureaucracy in the homeless shelter, in the homeless services. I've often said that it's not a miracle that somebody gets housed. It's a miracle that the system even worked. The hardest part, I worked for 4 years in an outreach case manager and a family case manager. And the hardest part of that job, yeah, it was heartbreaking. The homeless kids, it was heartbreaking. It was emotional labor. It was heartbreaking. But the hardest part was banging my head against bureaucracy. And now, with all the misinformation and the campaigns pushing for criminalization, it's so much harder than it's ever been. And we, all of us, we have to rise up. It's all I can think of anymore because it's getting so hard and it's getting worse. And I don't see it getting better right now for a while. And I'm a glass half full thinker. If I don't stay positive in some way, then I'll just give up. And I'm not going to give up. What I'm trying to say is, we've been around for a while, this Invisible People family, and we're growing. We got 1 million subs. I think we got 40 people on TikTok. We've got to all, I'm so grateful for your advocacy, for you educating your coworkers or your bowling league or your church or your neighbors and your family. I'm so very grateful because the videos just start a conversation. The news posts we do just start a conversation. The comments, this live stream just starts a conversation. It's what I like about the live stream is that you guys can type in and I can interact with you. Thank you. Thank you for spending another hour and 10 minutes with me. And thank you just for, being part of the Invisible People family. Have a great week.